This is New England Soccer Weekly with Tom Quinlan, Nick Giuliano, and Mike DeSilva on 790 The Score.
Oh, well, hi, boys and girls. What a whirlwind of a week. From the time that we left you last Thursday, a.k.a. Friday,
right,
which is when we released the show, to now, you've been screwed, and then you've revived yourself. So, and we've had a lot of moving pieces in between.
You got to put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
That's a good shirt.
That's
Screwed
a shirt
and revived yourself?
Yeah,
it's a shirt that you would see being sold down by a beach somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Like one of those little stands.
Like Venice Beach.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel today. I don't know if I should be angry or if we should just be looking ahead for a team that is one game away before the League's Cup break and then a little bit of a much-needed break for this Revolution team. And we'll see where we go. It's going to be hot and heavy as we get into the month of August when we get back to League play. But one more game of League play before the Nations League. Mike, Nick, guys, how are you?
What's up? Doing great,
man.
Doing great.
Yeah, you were at Gillette last night.
I
home
was.
watching triple boxing last night between Cincinnati, between the Revs and USA versus Panama. So
I was at the game last night.
Why'd you have the Cincinnati game on?
Oh, well, I
Place any wagers?
Yeah,
couple.
well, he doesn't have 7 TVs. He needs
Threw a few quid on it?
that
threw a
8-game
couple.
parlay.
Yeah,
But no,
no.
I was at the game last night,
50?
and in the press box, I do want to say to everyone, shout out to everyone in the press box that called timeout for Giacomo Veroni scoring and you having to eat hot dogs. So we'll get there. We'll get
He
there.
scored
We'll get to that
today.
bet.
You know what? Finally, he scored against a really good team. So
Okay.
shocker.
All right.
All right. So Liam McHugh joins the fun this week
Big
on
guest.
New England Soccer
Yes.
Weekly, the studio host for MLS 360, and is doing a kick-ass job this year with Apple. So much fun to have Liam on the program today. Late night for you last night, so we really do appreciate you making the time for us today.
It's great to be on. No, this is it's a fun time of year. It's and last night it was weird because it wasn't like we had 9.5 games technically last night with the Colorado Portland game, but we had great matchups last night. And sometimes you get great matchups and then the games are duds, but that was not the case last night. I even looked at that Sporting KC Real Salt Lake where it shot out 2-0. And I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be disappointed in this game. And then it came right back and Real made a game of that. So no, it was fantastic. Perfect midweek match day.
Yeah, nice for a Wednesday. Love it.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of things could have been shaken up in the standings, but the most important thing is you're creating a little bit of breathing room between yourself and Nashville right now. I guess you got to thank the city of Philadelphia for that one.
Brotherly love.
We'll get to that in a little bit because that had a lot of referee tomfoolery, if you will. Cincinnati, like I just said, shocking the Red Bulls late in the match, but we'll start with here at home. The New England Revolution getting a 2-1 win after getting absolutely screwed 2-1 on the road versus the New
We couldn't
York
tell
Red
on
Bulls last
social media
Saturday.
if you thought that. We couldn't tell.
Listen, they have me and Taylor Twellman.
No,
Who would
by
have
the
thought?
way, and me, and Mike.
Everybody.
And
I
I'm
think
speaking for
anybody-
him, probably Liam.
Yeah,
like,
Liam,
of
anybody
course.
with eyes.
Well, listen, it was funny. We were talking about last night and obviously, they issued the statement and they say they, got it wrong. And I will say, Bradley Wright Phelps comes on and he said, that's nice. And he's very British. He's like, I enjoy the apology. And I think that's a good thing. And
to do.
yeah, it's very much. And I could see Sasha just shake his head and Kalen's like, apology. She's like, I want my points.
Right.
Like the apology is one thing, but like you're chasing Cincinnati, you're right there. And considering like just how big and how first of all, that was maybe the slowest goal possible. The inside foot. And it deflects, and considering the situation, you're down to 10 men. I mean, it's such a potentially galvanizing moment, right, for a team, and you're in this mix, in this chase. It's rough, but I think it's even bigger because you guys know these two teams. There's a good chance they're going to finish 1-2, and they are far and away the most dominant home teams.
Yes,
and you desperately want that home field if you're both of these teams, and who knows? I mean, if this comes down to it's that close and that's the difference, that's absolutely killer for New England. So we enjoy your apologies, but points are preferred.
Right.
So a video assistant referee, this is supposed to be assisting referees to make the call right. How does the call get overturned wrongly?
Yes.
And then it was a wild move.
Interestingly enough, Liam, I'm sure you saw this last night as well. We almost had an exact mirror image goal last night in New England, and it seemed like there was barely any second thought to that one. Is that kind of like, you think there was a little makeup call there, or?
It was so funny. I think like we have Christina Uncle there, and she's great, and she keeps us all level, because that was immediately what went through everyone's mind. They're like, oh, well, they're not doing this again. So, all right, there was kind of like, let's play on, let's just keep going. Nobody saw that. It was quick, and the player wasn't offside, so it was pretty easy to move on from. But it felt, I was like, I think we were in the studio feeling the exact same way that every Revolution fan at home was feeling, like, come on, we're going to do this again immediately right after. Give us a little time to get over what just happened before this happens again. That one, but you're right. I think the strange thing about the VAR, aside from the fact that, like, I get that you go to VAR and some of it's subjective again. So really all it is slowed down subjective. This was not the case there. This was slowed down, and you had to basically get it right or get it wrong, and just look at the video for that. I'm always amazed also just how long certain things take and how quickly other things go, especially with some that I'm like, my eyesight's not great, but like, we all saw this, right? And they get the call right, but it just takes an extraordinarily long time. And I guess if you get it right, you'll deal with the time. But this was a strange one a week ago, and I'm very happy it didn't carry over to this week because it felt like what that play was going to.
Well, let me ask you this, because you brought up Pro puts out the statement saying that the goal should have been allowed.
Which is also crazy.
Which is also crazy.
Wild.
The second time this year that Pro has admitted that the referee at the match got the call wrong. The first time happened with Gustavo Bo.
And we talked about it last week.
You get fined for calling out the referees. Now the referees are calling out the referees.
You rarely see the league or an organization that runs the referees then not back their guys. Like, typically, even if they know they're wrong, you rarely see them not back their guys.
Which is amazing, as the next day after Pro calls out, the referees at the Red Bulls Revolution match, the Pro Soccer Referee Association puts out their own statement saying, quote, "Our officials remain dedicated to providing a safe and fair playing environment based on current IFAB interpretations and pro training, and will continue to do so in a similar manner, which is free of outside influence, protecting the integrity of the game we all love," end quote. So, I mean, Liam, is it wrong for me to speculate that there might be a little bit of strife between the Referees Association, the union, and Pro itself?
I think I understand. Listen, the referee's position is it's a terrible one. I mean, it is the definition of a thankless job, right? I mean, we talk that way about a bunch of different jobs as well. This is a thankless job. You want to do your job, never be noticed, and move on with your day if you're a referee. And I think their feeling is, in the past, they've always been backed. I like the transparency. I think fans appreciate the transparency. And I think in the end, you want to trusting the officials more if it's transparent. And that's really what you want, right? You want that as a team, and you want that as a fan, as a supporter. You want to know that, hey, listen, if they've looked at this and we've all saw the same video after, that they can come out and admit that there was a mistake. Because if not, then you'll go into matches like with that in the back of your mind. And I understand that the refs are used to a different way and used to being backed constantly. But I think in the end, it's better to just be open, honest, and move forward. Yeah. I think it serves everyone so much better.
Well, in the age of social media, back in the day, you used to see a highlight maybe a couple of times on SportsCenter or whatever it may be. But now you can go on Twitter and whatever else, TikTok, and
you
see
can watch it back on Apple too,
over and over, and people can edit their own videos. And now with the MLS season pass, you have pundits talking about it, and so it's hard to avoid. So I think that it was smart to get ahead of it and not pretend like your fans are dumb.
But here's the thing, though. You do wonder if these refs are getting too involved this year, because it was a weekend of complete nonsense from a couple of referees. So I already just mentioned the Red Bulls.
It always seems
Revs
to happen
game
at once.
The Columbus game versus New York City FC, where freaking Columbus's manager gets tossed out of the game, red card. Utter chaos. It's just like, it feels like these referees have been really involved with a lot of critical decisions this year, and I think the fans are picking up on it. Are you hearing that on your end, Liam? Like, do you see fan dissatisfaction with the refereeing? I know you said it's a thankless job, but No.
Listen, I think when that game got way out of hand, obviously, that Columbus game, but there are clear rules, right? Like, if Wilfred Nancy is going to walk on the field and scream and yell, like he's almost certainly going to get a red card. If you throw water at the fourth official, even if it's out of frustration and it's just water and it barely hits him, you know what? Let's not go down that road, because who knows what you're throwing next. And I think what you'd have from both of those coaches in the end is sitting there like, hey, I lost my head and I shouldn't have done that. But I was frustrated with the performance leading up to that. With the performance of the referee. And that's why. I will say this, that same referee was involved in a lot of situations last night. And that's a difficult situation. And I was talking to Christina Uncle, and I was talking to some other people, and this was interesting. Just this idea of, if a referee has a match like he or she had against Columbus, where it was heated, where things seemed to get out of control, where maybe at times it seemed like it got away from the referee, perhaps there is then the next game, not a Major League Soccer game 3 days later. Maybe it's down to a USL game. Maybe it's time to cool things off. Take the pressure off the referee as well. Take the spotlight off that referee. Because all of a sudden, if you're into another game and all hell breaks loose, it almost feels like, here we go again. Even if I make the right call on this and it should be a red card and I take someone out, people are going to ask me to explain myself. Yeah. And now I don't want the official second guessing what should be the right call. But I thought that was interesting. And it was something, it's funny. It's a world that we're around all the time and I know nothing about. Just this idea that you could, maybe we alter that schedule. Maybe you go down to USL. Maybe you referee a different level match. I didn't even realize that was an option. Apparently it can be. And I thought that you have to, these are human beings, and you do have to, obviously you have to check them. You have to balance them. You have to make sure they're doing the right thing. But I think there's also an emotional part of this where you do have to say, hey, listen, maybe need a little bit of a cool down, and we can get back to this in a week from now, which I don't think is such a terrible thing.
It's the human element of it. It's like we forget that, yes, there is a job to be done, but at the end of the day, their heart rate might accelerate the same way a player's does in testy situations like that. You got to take care of that. And it's a difficult situation, and you never want the refs to be the factor in any of these games, in any sport. And I got to tell you, as much as we're talking about this because we have to talk about this, it is one of those things where on the air, like, to me, unless it's a game changing, which it was, right? It's something that I typically avoid because for conversation, because I feel like it does affect every team in a similar way, and everyone's got to go through it. But this, you're right. I mean,
it's widespread. If it's isolated to one team, I can understand, but it's more than one game, and it's more than just more than one game on a weekly basis. So, not saying that
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, and I think VAR complicates that to a matter because it puts more responsibility into the referee's hands. And unfortunately, and I will say this, we saw it last night. We saw a VAR check for a handling offense, and then a freeze frame of that video came, and the ball appeared to be on the arm. But, like, I have to say, it was one of those where the video looked like, I don't know. Like, is it in front or is it on the arm? And
right.
I guess the argument can be made, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, it looks like it's on his arm. Right? It's so...
We still can't even define a handball these days. So
that's also
like, what is a catch in the NFL, right?
That is true.
I mean, I thought Danny Higginbottom, who did a great job with Steve Cangelosi last night, just breaking down and saying that Philadelphia's defender on that corner didn't make himself bigger or didn't make an attempt either to go for the ball.
So many subjective parts of these rules.
It's so subjective to the rules.
It makes
if it's here.
You and I may interpret it completely different, but it's who is the one making.
I'm like celebrating. You think, all right, my parlay is going to survive.
There we go. There's the truth.
Sports bettors, that's a whole different story.
Hey, listen,
Liam,
we'll get back to the Revs.
Yeah, we'll get to the Revs in DC, but this is your first time on our show. You've been on television for so long. You've done so many different sports. What made you come to Apple to host MLS 360 and be a part of MLS?
Listen, I love this game. I grew up playing it. I played briefly in college, very poorly, but I still... I always had a desire to be back in it. I got to do Premier League for a while there with NBC, which was spectacular, kind of a dream come true type job. And I would do the weekday matches, then Rebecca would do the weekends. And I did that just for a brief time, and the schedule got too hectic. So this was a tremendous opportunity. I live in New York. We broadcast out of New York. And, Sasha Clutchen and Bradley Wright Phillips and Kalen Kyle are tremendous partners. And I think you guys know, it's funny, people ask about sports media and what jobs you like and what you'd want to do. And I think in the end, you like a job, whether it's media or not, based on the people you work with. And I I feel like I found that at TNT with hockey, where I love the people I work with, and I've been lucky here. This is a great group at Apple. So passionate, want to have fun, and you need to, because let me tell you, you go 5.5 hours on air, whipping around to games, and occasionally you get a few 10:30 games, and it's not happening. There's not a whole lot of action to whip around to. You need some people that you want to talk to, because if you don't want to talk to them, you get about 2.5 hours where you're staring at each other. So it's been a great opportunity. I'm thrilled with it.
Yeah, and it seems like they've just absolutely nailed it out the park with the talent that they've brought in. I mean, we've been fortunate to have a guest from MLS season pass pretty much every week since the beginning of the season, and every single guest, has been awesome. You guys just are so knowledgeable and personable, and that that's credit to Apple and MLS for putting that together, because that's not always the case. Sometimes there's a dud here and there, but we're batting 1,000 here, which is great.
It's a good thing as a host too, because we've had the personalities on with us, and it does help immensely when they have A, the knowledge, but B, the personality to carry that conversation on.
Now, are you the lead anchor this weekend for the unveiling of a guy by the name of Lionel Messi?
Oh, that guy.
No. I'm staying in New York, so I will not be. I know that a few of my coworkers are headed down there. I think after the Stanley Cup final, my trips back and forth to South Beach are limited. My wife and kids, I think, have had enough of me, spending 2 weeks bouncing from Vegas to South Beach while she's trying to get kids to school.
Sounds pretty good.
So a tough week at the office.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to say I'm exhausted. Work so hard. Oh, work so hard in Vegas and South Beach. So it's all work. It's just such a grind. No, listen, it's such an exciting time. It's funny because I was doing the Stanley Cup final when all this news broke. So you had the Heat in the final, you had the Panthers in the final, and all of a sudden the Messi news broke. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the coolest thing happened. We're on the set. I think it was Game 3, and we're in Florida, and some fan walks up, and he's got somehow already the bootleg Messi.
Oh yeah.
Inter Miami jersey
for probably 2 years.
Just ready to go. And he comes right up to the desk. He's there early. He goes, "You got to get Gretzky to sign this." He's like, "I'm getting all the goats." He's like, "I'm making it a mission to get all." I was like, "All right." And the funny is, we get so much stuff for Gretzky where it's after a while, it's all right, listen, we can't take everything. This guy's not going to sign autographs for 2 hours. But I took that jersey. I was like, "Come back later." I was like, "This one, he'll absolutely sign." I was
That's awesome.
And he got this. He got such a kick out of it. He's like, "Really? They want me to sign this message?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, man." So it's taken, and since then, rightfully so, it's taken on a life of its own. And despite the fact that Sasha Kleshman wants to throw cold water on, tells us he's not going to play in the playoffs, which whatever, the numbers suggest he probably won't. But take it easy, Sasha. Let us enjoy the moment.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this: does coverage change at all? Because now with Messi coming in, are you guys going to be doing anything, especially for that first game against Cruz Azul coming up a couple of weeks here? Now we got, or next week, I guess.
Next Friday, yeah.
Yeah, my God.
I mean,
that came up so fast.
Are you guys going to be going live from Miami more often? Are you guys going to be is it going to be more? Is it going to be more pomp and circumstance around every Messi location?
Messi watch.
Messi watch. I mean, like when Beckham came in, stadiums were packed out across the country. There was hype around it. This is different, though. You have you have your own platform, and it really does make me wonder if you guys are going to kind of get out of the studio in New York and kind of follow him around wherever he goes with this being a happening. It is a happening.
Listen, we're definitely going to ramp up coverage for him. There's no doubt about that. I'm kind of curious if when we do the 360 show, if we're just bouncing from game to game to game, but on just one side of the screen, it's just constantly Inter Miami. And even if they're just warming up, like they're playing the 8:30 game, it's let's just watch them warm up the entire time. I mean, just why not? I think everyone wants to see his every move at this point. It's going to be a huge reason why subscribers are joining Apple TV and want to watch. So I think we want to document it as closely as we can. I think the difference is Beckham was part of it was the off-field show,
the celebrity of it.
Exactly. And Beckham, to his credit, he really embraced that. Mm-hmm. He was that guy. He was comfortable with the attention, comfortable with all the interviews. And Messi is a different personality, right? I mean, you don't really get that from him. So I think what people just want to see is, they just want to see as much video possible of what this guy is going through, getting ready, preparing. I mean, and to be able to see this in America, playing in Major League Soccer and someone embracing it. And let's be honest, someone who can still claim that they're in their prime, given what we saw in the World Cup, who's who's I think the greatest of all time. That's such an amazing situation for this country. So, for North America in general.
From anybody that complains about too much coverage about Messi, do you hear from a fan in Dallas or a fan in Atlanta saying, "Well, you're talking about my team"?
Possible.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, listen, I don't think so. I mean, right away at this point, no. I think you're going to. I think people are going to embrace it. I will say this. I mean, listen, we're still doing a 360 show. We're still whipping around. We're still, we're giving. And the beautiful thing about the Apple TV is, if you actually are thinking there's too much coverage here, we've got every other game.
Right.
We've got every other match.
Yep.
So you can still bounce around. But I have to say, I do wonder. I do wonder overly if the 360 show becomes just like us in a split screen constantly, and it's like here's Messi putting the shin guards in, and here's it's.
No,
juggling a little bit.
I like that idea. Or how you can at certain services you can pick which cam. You just have to have a Messi cam, and that's the selection that people have. I mean, why not?
I gotta tell you, that's kind of a cool thing, because I did see we have all the monitors up there, and there was one yesterday I was watching while we were in a quick break where it was a Lucho Acosta ISO video, and they were rolling back highlights. It was so cool to watch Lucho Acosta do his thing, and I was thinking, I'm like, oh my god, a Messi ISO cam during the game as its own feed. I mean, you'd get probably as many people watching that as would watch the game itself. And it's the perfect, you guys mentioned your multiple screen viewing. How fantastic would that be?
And I've already
frustrating if you're gambling.
I've already had the idea, Liam, like you mentioned. Messi is the opposite of what Beckham was in regards to the celebrity. Everybody knows who he is. You don't know much about his personal life. I've always thought it'd be interesting. Now he has an interest in how successful Apple TV is as well, according to the alleged deal. Why not do some type of docu-series?
I think that's what Michelle Kaufman said on our show.
Yeah, following his arrival here and all that stuff. I mean, who the hell wouldn't watch that?
And I would say this, I could see that being more of a possibility than just the constant, hey, let's give an interview now. Let's do an interview now. Live sort of spur of the moment. Hey, right. we want to pull you in this direction and pull you that direction. I think if it's hey, listen, we're setting this up for a documentary. There'll be times there's cameras around. And I mean, I want to see that because, again, to your point, we just don't get that from him. He is one of those athletes. I mean, I do hockey, and listen, a lot of hockey players are very similar in that situation. I mean, I think about Sidney Crosby, maybe one of the 5 best hockey players of all time, and we don't know that much about the guy.
Right.
Really, just don't know. And I'm fascinated. I'd love to see some day-to-day stuff, how he prepares, what his home life is like, and it would be very, very cool to kind of bring us behind the curtain with a guy like Messi as he makes this trip.
Let's bring it back to the Revs. Again, as we said at the top of the show, get the win last night versus Atlanta United, avenging that loss against the New York Red Bulls.
Excellent first half.
Excellent first 10 minutes, and then they do what the Revs always do, and they take their foot off the pedal for the final 45 minutes.
That's just soccer. It's difficult to do that for 90 straight minutes. They played a very strong first 45.
They
really
let the game. They absorbed the game. I thought they let Atlanta come to them more.
But you have to give Atlanta some credit. They made some halftime adjustments. Their scheme was different. So I mean, Atlanta's a good team.
And they
started out 3 in the back.
They can attack. They have the ability to counterattack.
And they did in the second half.
And they did, yeah.
Wow.
So what is the conversation with you and your analysts about the New England Revolution? This is a team that sits in second place in the league right now, would be 4 points off of Supporter Shield if the referees didn't screw them this year. And they've been doing it without Henry Kessler. They've been doing it without consistent minutes from Giacomo Vrioni.
Losing Dylan Barrero.
Yep. Not having a set midfield. Now maybe Harks and Mark Anthony Kaye will provide a little bit of consistency next to Matt Polster, but this is a team that's sitting in a really high position with not a lot of great pieces. Or not a lot of pieces that you would think would win you an MLS Cup. Is that a better way of saying it?
I don't know if I agree with either, but go ahead.
No, I think you need some surprises there, especially given the injury situation that you've had. And, I'd say Bobby Wood's, certainly one of those guys. I mean, the numbers put up there. I think you got to give Bruce Arena a lot of credit because you're not going to hear his name. It's funny because I think when you have all the wins that he has, you're not immediately going to hear his name for Coach of the Year. And a big reason why is you want teams that are, listen, first off, Bradley Carnell's probably going to win because St. Louis is, defying all the odds at this point. But he's done a tremendous job here because the injuries that you mentioned, the expectations going in, you make that home field a fortress. But I like this team. I like it a lot. I think, I'd like to see him pick up a few more wins on the road. But to me, there are real pieces to the team. It's got an identity. And what I saw last night and what I loved about it was we had this matchup of arguably, two of the most gifted number 10s in the league, right? With Heel and Almada. And Almada, I felt like, in a way, could drive the play a little bit more than Heel. That was sort of our take going into it, where Almada will drift back a little bit more and carry the ball. But then what happens? Carlos Heel drifts back, makes an absurd turn, nutmegs someone, and then in like a half a second later, just puts a beautiful through ball in to set up a goal. And there's magic there. He is one of those players, and it's I love Taylor Twelman, and he gets crazy excited about things, and we all love that. And he's a Revs guy, but he's right. I mean, Carlos Heel, like the fact that he wasn't originally on the All-Star team was insanity.
Bananas.
And and thank God they righted that. But he is one of those players where, like, you have guys down, you have people out. Maybe you're not at your best. It's 90 degrees and no one's comfortable, and he can alter the outcome of a game. And there are really only a handful of those guys in the league. He's one of them. And the other side of this is, and you brought up, Atlanta made some moves and they were attacking, and right off the bat in that second half, which I have to say, as a neutral viewer, it was great because I'm like, all right, we've got a game now. And Petrovic was phenomenal.
It's amazing.
Phenomenal. And we had Tom Bogert on of The Athletic, and we were talking about all these different, transfer rumors and who may go. And the funny thing is, we didn't get to him, but I look at him and I hope, and I don't think he's going to go this summer, but like, if you're a European club, you're looking at him and thinking, oh my God, like this could change what we do here. He's that good.
What I was worried about with the rumors is that he would have wanted, like, there was he's a really pleasant person to be around, just a real kind young professional. But when you hear Manchester United is calling, right, you kind of like, hey, I love going to Patriot Place and all, but I'd kind of love to be downtown Manchester as well.
You hear this, you hear see ya. That's what you hear.
Yeah. But you know what? After the United thing falls through, United goes in a different direction, picks up a different goalkeeper. You see, like, still a very positive attitude from this kid Petrovic.
He made that save that you referenced earlier, Liam. He was fired up. That was the first time I saw him.
Yes.
Show real emotion.
Ran to the crowd. He was pumped up. It was great to see.
I bought in. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, and I love seeing that from a goalie. And you're right. You don't want the sort of like the disappointment, and I'm dragging myself to work, and this isn't what I wanted. I was hoping something big was going to happen. No, like, he's right back out there making big plays, and he's engaged, like 100% engaged. And the thing is, like, as fantastic and brilliant as Roman Berkey has been, and he's an all-star as well. And I just don't think. I think it's Blake and Petrovic in terms of, sort of, when things aren't going well and your defense has breakdowns and you can still win a game because a goalie's going to stand on his head and make some ridiculous saves. That's where, to me, New England is such an advantage. And it really, I love Roman Celentano for Cincinnati, but he's young. To me, that's a distinct advantage between these two teams is in net, and Petrovic is that guy. And I think he's the best in the league right now. I don't think you're going to get an argument with too many people. But listen, it won't be long. Someone's coming around because someone's tossing money at that guy, and he's going to go. But it looks like at least this year, they could ride this out, and maybe he could be the difference.
Last one from me. I don't know if you guys have anything left, but last one from me. I'm looking at the table right now in the Eastern Conference. You have 4 teams that sit 3 points behind Chicago for that final vaunted playoff spot. They're 4 points behind DC United, who has 30. You have New York Red Bulls, 26. Charlotte, 26. Montreal, 26. New York City FC, 26. How much movement do you think we see between those teams between now and the end of the year?
I think we see a lot because I think you're talking about inconsistent teams. So I think it's a constant shuffling. If I had to pick one team that I liked out of that, I'd probably pick Red Bulls just because I feel like they can defend. Sorry, I'm waving to my wife as she goes to work. And I think that's the difference. I mean, he's sort of inconsistent offensively, but definitely better the last month or so because it was kind of anemic offensively for them for a while. But if you have the base, which they do, they have the base where you can defend, at least there is that consistent aspect of an inconsistent game. I would put them there. But I think it's the cool thing, and it's sort of the best thing about adding teams to the playoffs is if you're going to add teams to the playoffs, you want it to be interesting, and this will be interesting because you have so many teams in that mix. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement.
So to the matchup this weekend, we talked about the Revolution. Just your thoughts on DC United. This to me is a team that has almost had a seesaw season where it looks like they're on the right trajectory, then they drop down. Obviously, Christian Benteke is the class up top. Taxi Fuentes has been playing so much better over the last month as well. So it's going to be it's a different DC team than maybe the Revolution saw, a few months ago.
100%, and it almost feels in some ways like DC is everybody's trap game. Like for good teams, where you feel like you're a better team than this team. They're up and down, and they can look poor some weeks. So I think you have to worry about them. They are a good team, solid team. There are bad teams right now in this league. There are teams right at the top. They are a good team, so you have to worry about them. And there is no better target man, obviously, in Major League Soccer than Benteke. He is that guy. And the cool thing about them is, because of him, they can play direct, right? They can almost play this sort of like, it's as a college soccer guy, it feels like that college soccer long ball and let him flick a header on and you run onto it type play, which shouldn't work at this level consistently. But with Benteke, you can, because he'll win it and he'll flick it on perfectly. He just is. And I think, and I also have to say this, like Wayne Rooney, given how short the deal was, and the fact that listen, he's Wayne Rooney. He's going to have options going forward. I like how driven he seems to be.
He's very bought into the league.
Very much so, right? And I like how, he's had moments where this team has dipped, as you mentioned, and at halftime he's made like wholesale changes. All right, and then when they ask him about it after, he goes, well, I wish I had more subs because I would have taken more of these guys out of the game. Because he was so but then at the same point, if guys play well, he backs them, right? He talks about he played young players at the beginning of the year, which I think was surprising that he would trust guys like that. And he made a point of saying, they've been here, they earned it, they've been playing well behind the scenes. I like him. I like a bought-in Wayne Rooney to this DC side.
One more thing with Rooney in that back line, they play three in the back. They play a very aggressive high.
Oh, yeah.
But one player that stood out to me watching some DC back over the last month is Lewis O'Brien. He had a great ball in for an assist on a goal in the last game. He's on their left side. Well, what are your thoughts on a player like that coming over from England?
Well, there's also some talk that he may be going back. Right. So there's some rumors about that as well. And if that's the case, it'd be killer because it would really, really hurt this team because he has been a difference maker and they need someone cementing something back there because they play, like you mentioned, they play aggressively. They like to play their goalie maybe a little too aggressive, but they back him in those situations. I will say that let him be as aggressive as he wants because if guys are hitting bangers from 68 yards, I want to see it. I want to watch. But they could use some stability, and I honestly haven't looked the last couple of days about the rumors involving O'Brien, but I know for a while there it seemed like, at least in the last week, that there was some momentum, some talk that he would be headed back to Europe, and if that's the case, that would sting quite a bit.
This is what we've seen with the Revolution. This is a let it fly Saturday night for sure.
Let
it fly.
You don't want them to be that whole DC's the trap game again. We got to trap the trap game.
And here's the thing: Nashville is going to be down 2 bodies this weekend versus FC Cincinnati.
Yep.
FC Cincinnati's back at home. So FC Cincinnati, Nashville's going to be missing some people. So that it almost feels like that's a guaranteed win for FC Cincinnati this weekend. I probably just jinxed it. That's what they do.
Wait, did you put that early bet in? Is that why you're doing this?
I was thinking about stopping at Seekonk on the way home.
You just guaranteed a Mukhtar hat trick. I think
there it is. Tommy takes.
He's going to lose a lot of people money.
Liam McHugh, longtime TV host and analyst on TNT.
On everything.
On everything.
Oh, Liam, hockey quick. Bruins obviously were in New England and did not have the season that everyone thought after the regular season. A lot of interesting moves for Boston in this offseason. What are your thoughts on the Bees?
Listen, it's a team that's potentially in transition, which stinks considering you just have this, record-setting regular season and then the disappointing exit. The Bergeron situation is massive. I don't know. There's no
Milan Lucic. I know that was kind of what I was alluding to.
I'm so pumped that Lucic is back. Like, I love that guy in the league, and I know, and I also love that he bought his own Boston Bruins hat to make the Zoom call, just so he could show how much he loved it. He is Boston hockey. And the cool thing about Lucic, and I didn't see this coming a couple years ago, still a little something in the tank. Some fire, and which I kind of felt like this would be a guy who would dip. Now there's something in the tank. There's fire there. He'll play that big bad Boston Bruins style. So that part I love. It's great for us, and we love having him on TNT because he's another one of those guys where you interview and one of the rare hockey players who you bring on, and he does not hold back. He lets you know exactly what's on his mind.
Yeah, you guys had an awesome crew there. Just incredibly fun hockey coverage.
Yeah, with Biz, man.
Just Biz.
Yeah. Biz, what an ad.
Yeah, just a great overall.
I'm so looking forward to the first Luch Biz interaction from Boston. Whatever we had planned for the next 10 minutes of the show is going away because those two will just probably chirp each other for 10 minutes.
I love it. Battle of the wits.
Liam McHugh, thank you so much for the time today, sir.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We've been really lucky with a lot of these.
I love that. First of all, hold on.
What kind?
No, I like it. No, great.
Don't stay.
Welcome back to New England Soccer Weekly.
We went to. I know people that aren't watching this. We went from an incredibly professional interview with Liam McHugh for 36 minutes. He brought it. It was great content.
Yeah.
We were all in it, and then this is what you're seeing.
No,
now.
but the best part of it all, which is the beautiful part of us having YouTube, is you get to see how to go back. If you weren't paying attention,
yes,
go back and see how just pensive Tom was in that moment, sitting there cross-legged, just staring straight, like we've been very lucky, we just survived a car crash.
You know why? It's all his lost parlays going through his head. Now.
Or he's thinking of his next one.
It's always thinking of his next one.
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely going to be Cincinnati. It's definitely going to be over 2.5 goals.
Mike, this table looks, again on YouTube. You're watching this. It looks kind of. I don't see any hot dogs on here
because the hot dog bet was for one game and it was against New York City FC the Bronx.
The press box.
Go back and watch the tape.
The press box thought differently last night. This was not me. I forgot about this.
Tom, if you care about your people, the press box is asking for some hot dogs.
This was brought to my attention last night when Veroni scored a fantastic goal last night, an incredible ball through, finished that breakaway. That was the first thing that people said. People turned around and said, Tom's got to eat the hot dogs.
Listen, good goal for Giacomo Vrioni. Gets it done versus...
Oh, that's not what you texted us last night.
Well, I mean, it was ugly. I thought
on what planet was that ugly?
Because in the back of your mind,
what is your problem with him?
It's not
what is your deal?
As books had to do, I think you want to see Vrioni prove it to you. Did you think that he was going to be able to dance around Brad Guzan that easily?
Yes, and he did it.
I think the goal...
the ball was fantastic, by the way.
The ball was better than the goal. Can we agree on that?
The ball was world class.
Ball was fantastic, but here's what you want from, what I saw from having two guys start up top with Bo and with Vrioni is the spacing was really well. We know Gustavo Bo wasn't phenomenal on the ball, okay?
Bad night for Bo.
Didn't have the greatest night on the ball. He had a couple opportunities where he could have taken shots and he took an extra touch. We're not going to go there. But the spacing that those two had, the chemistry seemed good enough where Vrioni was able to make those runs and find those diagonal runs through those gaps. And of course, who's going to find him? Carlos Hill. And a calm, cool, collected finish. The goalie came out. Listen, that's not picking a side, and a breakaway is not always the easiest thing. A goalie is going to react.
He went across his body, too.
Right, and a goalie is going to react to any movement you make if you have the skill to make the cut, beat him, and he did.
Because he thought he was going to his left because that's his dominant side.
That's his dominant side.
It was a good move. But
cut to his right. Didn't let the ball go out of bounds and finished.
That was maybe the strongest 45, maybe the strongest half that we've seen from the New England Revolution all season against a very good opponent.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I'm not doing this for effect. A big reason why is because of Giacomo Veroni. Mike just said it. The spacing allowed Heel to move around more. You saw a lot of 1-2 touch play that you don't normally see because the defense has to account for him because he's running and positioning himself in the right spot almost every time. That's allowing Bo, like you said, to get in behind. I also want to credit for his first start, and he's only been here for 2 weeks. I thought Ian Harkes played very strong in the middle.
People eating their words today.
Again, off of Matt Polster, in that you need communication, you need spacing. He got into that role very well. But what I noticed, I talked with Frank Delapa about this last night from the Boston Globe, coming over from overseas. He's playing quicker because MLS is a slower game. That 1-2 touch from him allowed everybody else to start that play, and they looked fantastic through the first 45. I said this earlier with Liam. You want that to happen the entire game. It's very difficult in the game of soccer to keep that play up the whole time, and Atlanta's a good team and kind of schematically changed, but I was really pleased with that first 45. But again, the big reason why, Tom, is because Veroni was on the field.
I got a problem with what you said. Veroni had a good game. Good.
Well, I wasn't saying necessarily you.
Who's eating their words? Okay, good.
No.
Why would you be so defensive?
Yeah,
because people are coming at me like, blah, blah, blah. No, if anybody told you,
the whole hashtag was against Ian Harkes signing.
Because first off, nobody knew what
he never said.
You know what? Then you know what?
He didn't say your name. Why did you take it so defensively?
Because he directed it at me.
I think I
watched the show on YouTube. You could see it.
I'm pretty sure I looked at the camera. First of all, second of all,
tone is everything.
You are the leader of what do I call? What do we call the hashtag?
The hate group?
Just the haters. Player haters ball.
Tom is the Pied Piper.
Yeah, literally. You are Silky Johnson.
If anybody told you that they knew what Ian Harkes could deliver to this team automatically, they would be lying.
Okay, so
there was a lot of hype, like, oh my God, Ian Harkes, great signing.
No, you can't. So that you is using a collective. You were making assumptions either way. And by the way, I'm just basing off of what my two eyes saw for 40, however long he was in, 60 minutes. The second
he was great.
So we take that right now. You can't make an assumption one way or another before you actually see the player.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying, like,
because people want the flashy name. This was the whole issue. It was like, who is this guy? Why is he coming in?
What are you going to do with that TAM spot?
Right.
And they needed midfield help. They went for 2 midfielders so far during this window.
And one of them seems to be working out pretty well so far. And you know what? That's always been a question for us, these past couple of years. Polster is locked in there. That's your guy. What a great goal he scored last night, on Wednesday night. But who is going to be the consistent person to play next to him? We saw Noel Buck show some, but with the youth, we don't know if he could do it.
And he's hurt.
We clearly know that Latif Blessing did not work out, which is still wild. That's just wild to me.
I know it is.
Well,
it seems a lot of minutes played, and then see you later.
Because he never recovered after the Ghana trip.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Regardless, it's possible. We're not going to speculate.
Yeah,
He's off the team.
That is speculation.
His form dipped considerably, and he even admitted to it with me after one of the games earlier this summer that his form was not what it was pre-Ghana. I'm happy that Bruce identified it and got him out of here because I think he was hurting you, and you saw that in the Red Bull game.
And you don't want to feel obligated to play. Not that Bruce does, I'm sure, but it's still a name. It's a familiar name.
You do wonder what happens with the wife. Because you do feel bad about that.
Of course.
Because he's been working for years to get his family over here. They finally get him into America, and now he's getting shipped off to Canada.
Well, we wish him.
It's the ugly side of sports, but
we wish him nothing but the best. And I'm sure that part has probably been figured out. I know that business is business, but there's also the human aspect, and they went above and beyond to help him out. I don't think they're just going to leave him, out in the cold. But with that being said, Harkes gives you good minutes last night, and he gives you somebody that looks like he can play at a good pace next to Polster. And when you get Tommy Mack back and you get Buck back, now you're seeing that depth that we were questioning, right? You're seeing a guy that can start for you.
When you get Mark Anthony Kay in here.
Exactly. And you're starting to see the depth that we were looking for. I liked what I saw from Spalding last night. I thought that he had a pretty good game. He was getting banged up out there, but he was hustling his butt off.
Definitely effort was there, but DeJuan Jones, I mean,
no, of course,
I know you're saying the same thing. Like that form's going to look even better with him on the field for sure. And Harkes is going to be able to play off of him. Spalding was open a lot last night,
big time, and he was involved in the attack.
No,
he was in that attacking third. Very often.
No disrespect. He played
3 or 4 games. He's been starting.
That's what I think. He just what happens with all professionals. He got more comfortable each week, and that was definitely his best game last night.
And just wait till you add Kessler back into the mix. You're going to be able to,
it's a good team.
You have a solid
team
rotation back there between Farrell, Romney, and Kessler.
And I think now I'm hoping, Bruce, please, if you're keeping the DP triangle up top with Roney, with Bo, and with Heel, and you go back to the depth word that Tom talks about, you got Bobby Wood on the bench now, who's scored more goals than probably anybody else's bench.
That would be a game changer.
That's possible.
I mean, it looks like, hey,
you got to let him roll now. You just saw what happened last night.
The worst part about all of this, though, is you only got one game and then a break.
I know. Good call.
It's
not necessarily a break.
What's our favorite word here on the show?
Momentum.
Do you lose that? It's not necessarily a break.
Yeah, because you got leagues.
But it's league play. And Bruce, we've seen he plays different.
Yeah, is he going to do what he did? What was the last one?
Open Cup.
Well, here's the thing. Well, I'm happy you brought that up because I brought that up with somebody inside the building a couple of weeks ago, and I said that they should just tank this thing. And they go, well, there's more money involved for the players. There's more involved for it.
Especially with the form they're in now. You got to keep.
You're going to see different lineups.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of random guys starting.
Well, that first one versus the Red Bulls.
That's like the U.S. in this Gold Cup. They're going to see this random line.
I don't think you completely tank it. I think you, like you said, I think you do want to somewhat keep this momentum of a really strong attack.
Such a long
just
break.
Because it's
you want to keep form, especially if you're playing. I mean, they've played well over the last 8 weeks now.
It's a double-edged sword because I think they do need a little bit of rest, but at the same time, like this is,
it's a sport, man.
It's the sport, right? After this weekend, you're not back in league play until August 20th. That's a long layoff if you get bounced early.
Yeah, so a month off of league play.
That's essentially what it was for the World Cup, and that affected a lot of leagues. That the World Cup break internationally I know not MLS because it was off season for them, but it affected a lot of leagues.
In the EPL.
Yeah, for sure.
Those guys are still playing, but they come back and the team is different because it's a different mindset. We know Bruce's eyes are on the MLS Cup. He is gunning for that MLS Cup because it is the last feather in his cap. He has done a phenomenal job with this organization, making people care about this team. Right. And, MLS Cup in a stadium are the two things he has left to really, really lock himself in as an all-time Revolution legend.
Well, the stadium is not him.
He'll be a part of it. He's going to be,
front office, Tom. You say it all the time.
He's a part of that. Him being here is a driving factor.
Part of the culture change.
It's part of the culture change. The logo was already part of it. The team as a whole.
The spending.
The winning.
Well, not really the winning, I guess, because he won back in the day. But I know the point.
I just not random, but I know we've been talking about this throughout the whole show. But you watch Matt Turner last night, and I know that they lost, but he was so good here. He's now piloted himself to be playing in the best league on planet Earth, in my opinion, and now he's starting for the national team. And the guy that Bruce and his team brought in is better.
Yeah. And he's the next guy now.
Well, don't worry about the next guy.
But this is why I think all of that is correct, Mike. And you want to win every year. This is unoriginal, but you almost have to because you're going to have to either replace Petro with another.
You don't catch lightning in a bottle twice.
Georgi Petrovic, as much as I love Heel, and I never played goalie, and I was a forward, and that's what I identify with. The New England Revolution, and this is not a hot take, the New England Revolution would not be anywhere near where they are right now, or look as good as they are, or have any stat that you stat people look at without Georgi Petrovic.
Yeah.
So if he's gone at the end of the year, your team takes a massive hit.
You don't catch lightning in a bottle.
You got
twice.
it. So then you have to do it now.
Yeah, you have to do it now, and Bruce is aware of that. And this stems back to the Supporter Shield season, where they fell short, and then last year was just I don't know. Maybe looking at it more now, maybe this was. Maybe that was a transition year all along, and we kind of talked about it last year.
Yeah, it was a transition year. Because here's the thing:
that transition year, though, they were also like, and again, it didn't happen, but they were very close to actually being a good team. Few results aside,
right?
And injuries and Sebastian Lletget, if he comes in playing better, it's just it was a myriad of things. But I think you got to a certain point last year where you realized last year was a bridge year to this year. If the refs don't screw you over,
here we go. We're back.
We'll go back to where we started because I think it makes a difference.
We'll end with how we started, but
it makes a difference.
This one was the worst of them all. The other two,
especially because they've admitted.
But they admitted the Gustavo Bo one.
Yeah.
Right. So they admit to two of them, and then you take the Noel Buck one, where they call back the Noel Buck goal versus Miami. If those 5 points go through, you say you get a tie out of Miami. Let's just say that for the sake of the argument. You get the win versus New York City FC. You get the tie versus the Red Bulls. That's 5 points right there. And guess what that does? 5 points puts you 3 points behind Cincinnati for the final for Supporter Shield right now.
Yep.
And we just spent all show talking about how important home field advantage is. It's 5 points that they got screwed over at.
I'm not again, we saw what happened with the Supporter Shield. I know Mike is with me too. You want to win MLS Cup and everything else doesn't really matter as much. It was an interesting point by Liam McHugh that I couldn't counter because your top 2 teams in FC Cincinnati
like on historic home runs.
Exactly. So if everything plays, if the hypothetical plays out and you're in that number 2 spot, you got to win at TQL. Yeah. Not going to be easy.
Yeah. You know, you could flip-flop this all day long, but then does that add even more pressure at home sometimes?
True.
Because we saw with the Revolution Supporter Shield season, it didn't necessarily work out for them.
Definitely not. We just talked to Tim about the Bruins. Same thing. Historic regular season, gone in the first round.
It's been a fun year, and I am really enjoying seeing how this team has been playing. Obviously at home, but even on the road, they've been scrappy. This reminds me a lot of that 2021 season.
And they still have room to grow.
Plenty of room to grow.
Which is exciting as well.
You keep your main guys healthy, and you continue to get some guys back, and you work off that depth, and you got the best goalie in the league by far, and the best top 2 player in the league. I don't even know we could put in head right now.
Carlos Hill is playing. I can't stress this enough.
And Vrioni coming to his own.
Go back and watch Carlos Heel last night. Go back, but he's just so good.
What is that? Is that 5 goals now for Vrioni?
Yeah,
5 goals on the season
in limited time.
Very limited time.
There was probably 5 good scoring opportunities last night that he had. That's exactly what
was
you want to see.
Was that a game-winning goal? Wednesday night, was that what it was too? Okay. I'm just saying. I made the mistake with Adam Book, so you won't see me do it again. I can't be wrong on these guys twice, and I've been standing by him. We saw what he could do, and this is a better Revolution team when he is playing like that.
By the time we do a show next week, Lionel Messi will be part of MLS, and then we'll really see how crazy things get. Nick?
Bruce?
Great, thank you.